Hey guys, Chris here. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the shed. Welcome to another attempted repair video. This is a 1990s Akai mini boombox. It's a cassette CD radio. So it's around 90s or 2000, something like that. It was dropped into the shop as e-waste. It looks like a blowfly. I don't know what the designers were thinking, but I'm going to see if I can fix it. I don't even know what's wrong with it. It just turned up in the e-waste. It has got a broken antenna and I've got no power cord with it. I have just quickly checked the battery compartment to make sure it's not full of corrosion, and it's pretty clean in there. Not that many people actually run batteries on these things, because you got to get a bank loan to go and buy the batteries, and half the batteries these days are so incredibly cheap. They just leak acid everywhere. But it's clean, so there's no issues there. So I'll find a power cord, we'll plug it in, we will see what works, what doesn't. It might just completely all go and we'll just give it a quick clean up and put it in the shop. But basically it was given to me for nothing, and I'd like to try and save it from the e-waste stream. So let's see how we go. I'll go and find a cord. Okay, let's see how we go. We'll plug some power in. As you can see, the unit's pretty dusty and dirty. It's clearly spent some time in the shed. Alright, we have power plugged in. Where are our controls? We have tape, which is the off position. Let's see if the radio works first. Alright, we have some noise. And if I could hold the antenna, let's see if we can tune something in. Alright, so it sounds like that's going to work. Alright, the volume's a bit crackly. Not so much crackly, it's just a bit uneven. So probably a spray of contact cleaner and that will fix that up. The radio works, so at the very minimum we've got a shed radio, which I could probably get $5 for. It does need an antenna fitted though. Anyway, that was FM. AM should work alright. Lots of static. We don't get much on AM around here. There we go. And the AM have a directional antenna inside. And the volume doesn't sound too bad there.
From putting in that work on those relationships.
Alright, so we've got a working radio. Let's go to CD. We have a little display working. We'll open the door. Oh, it's rather dusty in there, but nothing a bit of a clean out won't fix. I'll go and find a CD for it. Okay, let's put a rock and roll CD in there. The laser lens might be pretty dusty, but we'll see if it works. Now I think it should. Yeah, it's making some noises. It's found 15 tracks. That's promising. Play. Where's play? Fast forward. Oh, that one. Is it going to play? Come on. Yeah. Ooh. It started to. I heard a little bit of noise and then it's... Okay, it does work, but... Let's go to the next track. Oh yeah. It's not very loud. It does work, but it was a little bit hesitant to start. I'd say probably just the laser's dirty. The lens probably needs a clean. We'll try that again on track 1. Yeah, that's better. And go to the next track. The next track. Let's go back. Yep. That sounds pretty good. Stop. So we've got a working CD player, although it does need a bit of a clean out, but everything seems functional in there. Very good. It's starting to rain here. You might be able to hear that in the background. Let's see if the cassette works. The cassette is the least likely of the things to work. There's eject, that one. And it's very dirty and oh, it's absolutely filthy in there. In fact, I don't think I really want to put a tape in there. Let's see, just see if the spindles turn, the spools. Play. Yeah, that's turning with a fair bit of grip. Good. What do we got? Fast forward. Or does that rewind? Oh, it's working. And the other side seems to be working. Very good. Alright, I'm pretty confident that that will work now, because the biggest problem you have, of course, is the belts getting old and slipping. They seem to have pretty good torque on the spools. I reckon we'll just give it a good clean up and we should be functional. We better find an antenna for it, and then we can resell it in the shop. It's a few days later and I thought I'd better have a look at this thing. It's been hanging around the shed. It keeps getting moved from one spot to another. I'm going to separate the case. There's a number of screws around the back. I'm not sure if the back panel comes off and leaves it all at the front, or the front panel comes off and leaves it all at the back, or even whether the door of the CD will come off with either side. I'm not sure. So we'll undo a heap of screws and just see what falls apart, I guess. So there's two there, there's some deep in the back. Geez, that nearly goes right through. In fact, I don't know that my screwdriver's even long enough. A little arrow here tells me that there's a screw in there we have to undo. Wow. We'll have to see if we can extend this a little bit. That's about maximum. Will it reach the screw? I think it will. Yep, geez. Well and truly buried. It's got those two out. More in the sides here. And the bottom. This side. Now, sometimes they're in behind where the batteries go. No, there's no screws in there. Alright, well, is that enough? I'm not sure what's... Well, there we go. Yep, looks like it might come apart. And it looks like the back cover comes off. It also looks like we need to take the volume knob out without marking anything. We'll see if it'll lever up. There we go. And I guess we should look under the CD door, because sometimes there's a screw there. Well, we're getting there, but I'm still not sure which part. I think the works are going to stay with the front. I reckon the eject button's causing problems here. I wonder if that was supposed to lift off. Maybe. There we go. Foiled by the eject button. Yeah, that's all we needed. As usual, these things aren't really service friendly. Alright, we have got it apart now, except for some wiring. Does it unplug easily? So half of the mechanism's coming off. It's actually splitting the whole lot in half. It's not just a cover. Now there's a wiring loom that goes onto the main board in here. I'm hoping that unplugs. I'm not actually sure that that's even a plug. Well, here's our, we can take our antenna wire off. That will help a bit. I don't think that is a plug. That makes it awkward. Why didn't they have that as a plug? What about the other end? I think it unplugs the other end, but I can't even see in there. Yeah, it is a plug in the other end, but how I get to it? That's crazy. Alright, I'm just starting to see if I can get this board to come out, or at least come out enough so that I can access the plug. I think there's just 2 screws here at the front, and it just clips in at the back. Now, will that board come out enough? And it's on a locating pin, that's got it, right. Okay, now that that's out, we can unplug this cable. Okay, now we're talking. And we have a power wire over this side. Right, we have separated the 2 halves. Oh, well, they didn't make that very easy, did they? That should have been a plug, so we can unplug at both ends. Anyway, it's apart. There's a lot of dust in here. Very dusty. I might blow it out with the air compressor. We need to get into the cassette part here. It's absolutely filthy. There is mountains of dust in there. I'm not sure you'll be able to see how much. I'm not sure how much light's getting in there, but it needs a good clean out. I think I'm just going to hit it with the air compressor, blow it all out. Everything else looks okay. I'm just looking at the caps. They all seem to be not bulged or anything. We do need to get some contact cleaner into that pot. That was the volume pot. We'll do the switch while we're at it. But everything else looks okay. There's the AM antenna. And what about this side? Another big board under here. Very dusty again. There's just dust everywhere. So we'll blow that off with a compressor as well. And we can get in here and clean up the CD area and make sure we get the laser lens nice and clean. And I think that's probably all we need to do inside. Given that the cassette mechanism is so filthy, I'm going to see if I can actually remove it. So this board should come off with a couple of screws. And one there. I think I only saw 2 screws. Oh no, there's another one. We have another switch on the side. That's our FM stereo and mono switch. We might as well give that a clean up too. Now unplug some of these. Give us a bit of movement here. Where does that one go? There. And that's the signal in from the cassette. Alright, that's better. Now I can see what we're doing. Only 4 screws, I think, to take the actual mech out. Alright, now the door is probably holding it, so if we eject, oh, there we go, that's free. There we go, have a look at that. Have a look how filthy that is. Now you see why I didn't want to put a cassette in there. There is a lot of dust and muck in there. So I'll give that a good blowout with the air compressor. Whilst I've got it out, I'll clean the pinch roller up and the rubber idler. Yep, I think it'll clean up okay. The belts must be okay. We can see the 2 belts there. They weren't slipping when I tested it, so They don't look like they're showing any signs of breaking down, which is good. And we'll blow all the dust out of here. Look at that, we can actually pick it up in our fingers. Terrible. I've now cleaned everything down with the air compressor. It's much cleaner in here now. I've brushed all the little hard to get at places. I've cleaned around where the CD goes, and I've given the cassette mechanism a really good clean there. I'll just give the buttons a bit of a scrub up with a toothbrush before I reassemble them. And also I'm just going to wipe the case over whilst it's apart, because it's easier to get around where the knobs go, and we'll give the knobs a bit of a clean up as well. And then I'm just going to use some Windex, but you can use any sort of general cleaner. In fact, that probably isn't even all Windex. I tend to pour cleaners in together and mix them up, and you know, it's usually pretty good for cleaning up the plastic. And when I finish that, I might just wipe it over with some Armour All. It'll give it a nice gloss. It'll look much more presentable. The speaker grills on this one are pretty good. Sometimes they get squashed in. These actually haven't got any damage at all. Just a couple of little bits of paint loss where it's rubbed somewhere. But now's a good time to give the case a bit of a good solid clean. Then we can reassemble. I will make sure I clean the pinch roller and everything while I can access it, and the head for that matter. Everything looks pretty good on the mechanics side of things. So it's just a matter of a bit of scrubbing and cleaning and then reassemble. But we will have to remember to spray all the switches. We have the volume pot there that was a bit crackly. We have, I think this was the FM AM switch or something like that. And this long switch here I think is to do with switching from cassette to radio. Oh no, I think that's a recording switch there too. So we'll give them all a bit of a clean and work them back and forward, and hopefully it all performs smoothly when we reassemble. And now to give all these switches a bit of a squirt, we'll get some deoxit into them and work them back and forward quite a bit. Should free them up. So I'll do that to all the switches, and I'll just go back and work them back and forward for quite a while. I won't film all that, but the more you can move the switches back and forward with the deoxit in there, the more it's going to clean up the contacts. Plus also our volume fader, which was playing up a little bit. I think we can get it in the top there. We might put the knob back on there to make it a bit easier to turn. That should clean it out nicely. I'll now use some IPA just to clean up the roller here. And also we'll give the heads a good wipe. But the roller's got a bit of black on it, so it does need a clean. Yep, certainly got some black on it. So everything looks okay with the mech now. There seems to be a good amount of grease on the parts that need it. The belts look good. It's nice and clean now. So I think we can refit it back into the case, and we'll attach the 4 screws that hold that in position. Then we've got to hook up all our wiring loom, fit this board back in, and then join the 2 halves back together. Just as well, I took some video when I was dismantling, because I just had to go and check with it to find out where this board actually sat. It's quite a congested little item. There's not a lot of room for everything, and the wires only just reach, and I think that probably shouldn't be twisted that much. We might untwist it So usually you can work out where the wires, that's better, it's nice and flat. Usually you can work out where the wires go pretty easily because the plugs are different sizes. But when they jam a lot in a small area, it can be a bit fiddly getting the boards back together and in the right spot. And you want to make sure that the wires don't get in the road of levers and linkages. So we'll just keep those out of the road for the moment, because this switch on the board here has to be operated by a little metal lever at the back, so it's got to come up through that hole. There we go. And that allows this switch to go through the end of the casing here. These two, or the volume control and this switch, go through the other side casing, but that's where that board goes. So I can attach that board now, and then I can work out where some of these wires go. That one must, yeah, that goes to the other board, or the other half. And does that one go up? Probably over there. And that one must go there. That's the one that we had to move things to get unplugged. It's been a few days, actually. It's been over a week since I pulled it apart, because I've been to the farm since then. So that one will go on there. And the other one, yeah, the other one goes up here. So we're good with those wires. They're the speakers on each side. Should probably say on the board where they go. And this one goes over here. That's your input from your cassette mechanism. Alright, so those three are on. We have 3 screws, maybe 4 screws to put in here. No, 3 I think, because this hole is where the case screws into. I might just consult the video to see if we use the black screws or the golder screws, because they are different lengths. But we do have 3 of these goldy coloured ones, and we need 3 here, so I'm pretty sure that's what it would be. Actually, the black ones probably go through the casing, I think. Alright, I think we'll just go with these. I'm pretty sure they're the ones. And we'll soon know if they're too long, because they'll go tight before they actually pull the board in flat to the mounts. I'll get rid of that screwdriver. It's a bit awkward. We use a bigger one. Yep, that's not too long. That's good. Okay, that's in tight. We have this wiring loom, and this one goes to the other half, and everything else is plugged in and out of the road of linkages. Fantastic. Now let's get the 2 halves back together. And we have to plug this one into this board before we seat this board back into its mounts. Not a very good design. Just got to make sure it's lined up properly. We don't want to bend any pins. There we go, that's good. And I think these were power wires, came from the power board somewhere. Yes, just on the end here. Good, now we can put this board back. And I think, if I remember correctly, it located on some pins at the front and just had screws at the back. We better get this wire. There's our antenna wire. We'll plug that one back on in a minute. I actually think we're supposed to take the whole top section off before we put that board in, because I can't get it to locate, and it was very fiddly to get out. How do we open the door again? Our open button goes down there. There we go. That opens the door. Now, I reckon this has to come out somehow. And we probably should have taken this out before we removed the board, but I can't get the board back on the locating pins in there. I'm sure this has to come out somehow. I think the whole thing slides forward somehow. Alright, it's got to come out. There's no screws holding it. It must just clip out. There we go. Oh, I probably should have taken that out earlier, but okay. So at least now we can get this board located on the pins. So that clips in those, and that bracket goes around the back of the board. Okay, that's in. Now we can put it back in. Geez, that's a very fiddly design. Who came up with this? Now, how does it go back in? Well, actually, while that's out, we should screw the board. Yeah, we'll screw the board back down on here. Making sure no wires are caught anywhere. So 2 screws in there. That'll be these 2 shorter ones. Okay, well at least that board's now mounted properly. I can clean the lens from up the top. I don't think we need to get in any further to the CD mechanism. We've just got to reassemble this in the top of the casing. Okay, I think we're nearly there. These got to clip under that casing. Yeah, that looks better. Oh, what a fool of an idea that is. Alright, I can put screws back in the back now. I think they were these shorter black ones. And there was one just in the front. Okay, that's all back together. Let's make sure we didn't unplug that wire. All the wiring looks okay. We still have this antenna one to plug in, which went over onto the radio board on this side. Okay, all our wires are plugged back in. I think we can now safely push the 2 halves together. Hopefully they fit. Oh, alright, we've got to take that screw out because there's a tab from the front go through there. A bit premature with that one. And this one has to pop up through that gap there. The front ones all have to feed through their respective holes. Now what's happening here? We might have to open the door. Maybe not. There we go, a bit of a jiggle. Looks like it's just about together. Yep, excellent. Let's put that screw through while it lines up. We won't do him super tight yet until we get all the cross screws through. So that's where our push button goes for the opening of the CD top. That's our volume knob, can probably go in now. Yep, our switch is okay there. These ones have all come through good. Okay, let's put all the main screws through the casing and pull it up tight. Then we'll do that top one. And we're nearly ready for a test. And now it's time to give our favourite little blowfly a test. So it's all cleaned up. I will wipe over it with some Armor All when I've finished. But let's go to radio. That's AM and FM. So we can get a station. We don't have an antenna on here, remember?
Lights change, or car stop yet, let alone waiting for the traffic to pause. Oh, well,
that seems okay.
You know, crows are clue. Why are they so sharp-minded?
The volume's nice and responsive with no crackling. We just have a little bit of crackling from just static through the channel. So that's all good. Let's go to CD. Now I didn't give that laser a little wipe, so we'll do that. Just the lens. Just some IPA. Clean the lens off. It may have got a bit of dust while we were blowing things around with the air compressor. It was probably very dirty beforehand. Let's put our CD in. Close the lid. It's reading on the display. I can hear a few noises in there. It says 15 tracks. That's all good. Let's play. Won't be able to play much of these. Let's go to the next track. Sounds good. Next. And stop. Well, that all appears to be working fine, which is great. So that's all good. And the big one, or the one that we actually pulled it all apart for, was the cassette. So let's see what we've got here. Where's eject? Nice smooth opening door. I never remember which way these go. That one should be right. We need to switch it down to tape and push play. Fantastic. Stop, fast forward. Sounds good. Play.
When I remind you of all of this, you cry, cry, cry.
Thanks, Johnny. Rewind. Play.
You're gonna cry, cry, cry.
I'm not crying, it's sounding great. Let's flip the cassette over. It might still have a track there on that side. Very good. Cassette seems to work nicely. And it's nice and clean in there. It looks magnificent compared to how it was. And we've cleaned the heads and the belts were good. So there we go. We have an Akai CD player, radio and cassette, all in good working order. We just need to find an antenna for it, but they do turn up quite regularly. I rescue them off broken units, and it's just one screw to change the antenna across. And I like to try and get one that's the same length so it clips into the right spot. So there we go, all finished. I'll just give it a wipe over with Armor All next. So that's enough out of Johnny, but how's that? It cleaned up really well. I just wiped a little bit of Armor All over it as I suggested. It's in perfect working order as far as the cassette goes, and the CD player, I do have to find the antenna for it, but I did have a bit of an intermittent fault when I tested it before, and I had to pull it apart again, and this left-hand speaker was working sometimes and not others, and I had a bit of a play with it. When I pressed the paper on the speaker, it would come good. I tested the wiring and actually hooked the other speaker up to the wires that go to this speaker, and it worked fine. So there's a fault in this little speaker. It's not actually working now, so I've taken some dimensions of it. I know it's an 8 ohm speaker, 3 watts, 77 millimeters. I'll find one in a rec pretty soon and I'll just swap it out. Until then, I'll use this in my shed here as a shed radio just to keep testing it. But it's a great little unit. I'm glad we've saved it. Was it viable to do? No. I might try and get $30 or $40 for it in the shop once I get the last few things fixed up. So it's more about the fun of trying to save things. We've kept it out of the e-waste stream. It's a pretty cool unit, even though it does look like a blowfly. And down the track, they might become very collectible. So there you go. Thanks for watching, guys. Something else saved, albeit not completely finished, but I'm really happy with how it's come up. We'll catch you in the next video. Bye for now.